This episode of the show is brought to you by Hymns. Hymns for all your under-the-belt needs.
All right, here we go. Let's do this before the power goes out.
Oh, okay, sorry.
What's up? And welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, and we don't have one of our normal co-hosts today. This week has just gotten worse and worse with every passing minute. It first started off with, you guys know that have been listening to the show, there are 4 rotating co-hosts, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can already see that's not one of them. And if you're listening on the podcast, you saw his name. That's Edmund Mitchell. Why is Edmund here? Let's get to this first. We won't even say hi to him because he doesn't deserve a hello after the week that we've had. The reason that our normal co-host isn't here, our good friend Allison Sullivan, should have been the co-host this week, but her kid got the vid. There's COVID in the Sullivan household, so they are quarantined. They're at home, and you guys all know how Liv does with technology. Like, she has to come here to record, or it's not going to happen. So I texted a friend, and his name is Edmund Mitchell. Now I'll say hello. Hello, Mr. Edmund.
Hi, Mr. Taylor. How are you doing today?
Oh, terrible, if we're being honest.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad.
It has. So I texted you on, I think, Friday or Saturday. It was Saturday, and I was like, Hey, Allison just said that she can't record. Do you want to be the co-host with me? What was your reaction?
I mean, at first, it was surprise, shock, joy. I think I was very joyful. Then it went into panic, like, am I up to that challenge of being on your show? Then it was kind of relief because we kept having to reschedule. Because I was like, all right, well, if someone else cancels, I actually love canceling. I don't like canceling. I like other people canceling. But then it went back up to joy when we decided that we were going to do it. So
we have been putting this off. It hasn't all been the last hour for sure has been your fault. You've been trying to get out of this for the last hour.
Definitely.
You're like, my $1,000 and $1,000 that I've poured into the studio that's now my life. It's all of a sudden not working. Oh no.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it looks way better than anything else out there.
Well,
it might not work well, but it's going to look better.
Well, it won't, because there's this other podcast called The Show that's recorded right there with you as the host. And it is the single best looking podcast. It's not a great podcast, but it looks tremendous.
Yeah. The visuals are way better than the content. Well,
here's the thing. I have been binging your show over the last few days because I'm not a good friend and I don't listen every week. But
you shouldn't. You shouldn't listen every week.
Here's what happened. For those of you that don't, if you're in Texas, you know why the show has been delayed over the last few days. We are currently recording this in the middle of the single worst winter storm that Texas has ever seen. Like, we live in North Dakota right now. HE double hockey sticks has frozen over. And I'm not saying that Texas is HE double hockey sticks, but it is right now, because I am convinced that hell is cold. And we are living in it right now. We have not had power for more than like 4 hours in the last 2 days, and it's 8 degrees outside, feels like -6. Yeah. And we were like, hey, you were like, hey, I have friends and family in on Saturday, Sunday. Okay, cool. Let's record Monday. And then Monday, the storm hit, and both of us lost all power, which is required for me to hit record on my end, on my sound, on my computer, on my camera. It's also the same for you. And then also we have to connect through the internet, which we have not had either through Wi-Fi, and like our cell towers are down here. I've been cut off from the real world until this moment. So we hit record. We're here together. We're going to try to have a good show. But the power is going to go out in T-8 minutes. I don't know.
It's crazy how Texas is like, you know what? Global pandemic, hundreds of thousands of people dying. Let's still go to McDonald's, but then a little dusting on the ground. It's like, shut everything down. Everyone stay inside. Right. It's been interesting. I wish, like, if those two things would have happened at the same time, I think we would have like beat the curve a little more.
Yeah, so way to just come in and be controversial, right, with the first real thing that you said.
I don't care about politics at all. I don't know what I'm talking about. This is not legal or political advice.
It is really funny because, mask wearing has definitely gone up because it's really hard to breathe air that feels like -6, so you have to have something covering your face to breathe that in. So everybody has masked up, and it's been tremendous.
I don't understand, though. Texas has like the biggest vehicles of any state, like these massive big vehicles, but everyone drives 5 miles per hour in like 2 inches of snow. I don't get it. If you're from anywhere other than Texas, like I didn't grow up in Texas, so I've lived in like the Midwest and places that actually get seasons. And Like it's not that big of a deal. Just don't pump your brakes. Just keep going. Just keep moving.
Well, no one knows that, and they just keep going into the ditch like that.
Yeah.
People are driving slow because they see the carnage next to them as all the other cars are into the ditch.
Honestly, they're just scared. You just gotta go. You gotta commit. Snow driving 101.
The other option? It's the same option that we all had at COVID. Just stay home. Just stay at your house.
Just stay home. That's true. That's true. The fast food joints all around here have been like rocking, like cars out into the highway, like the drive-through just packed with cars. I guess everyone's like, if the power's out at home, get in my car, turn up the heat, and like order Whataburger.
Dude, here's the thing. The moral dilemma that I've had is I don't want to leave and go outside and drive. Like, there's 6 to 7 inches of snow in my driveway. Like, I like to get out. Like, our cars are not built for it. We don't have the tires for it. We don't have the chains for it. None of that stuff, right? I lived in Ohio for a year, and it was terrible, and I didn't like it, which is why I moved here to escape all this. And then God said, "To heck with you anyway. I'm sending it to your home." But
I mean, I have the great privilege of having lived in Toledo, Ohio during the worst recorded
not
winter.
A privilege whatsoever.
Oh, yes, it is. During the worst recorded winter in all of the United States was in Toledo, Ohio, the year that we were there. It was illegal to drive on the streets. It was like if you were out for more than 5 minutes, you would die. Like they said, don't have any skin exposed. It was like sub-zero temperature and stuff. So like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem that bad here. The sun's out. It's not even snowing that bad. I think I'm just immune to that kind of winter tundra now.
Well, we're not, because we were born and raised here. We're true Texans, unlike you. And so you could say it's been really easy to my wife and kids who have been sleeping in 45 degrees inside of our home. That's on you.
Yeah. Well, just put on extra socks, right? What's the big deal? We just put on a few more socks. We just kind of like bundle up. I think this is Jesus' way of saying we all need a little hug. Well, I think Jesus is just saying he wants us to be freezing cold, so we just kind of cuddle up. I think Jesus wants us to cuddle.
Well, Jesus is mad at us, I think, because everybody, now you're saying that this is Jesus hugging us. COVID was Jesus telling us we need to slow down. I'm tired of Jesus telling me things. It's really getting old.
Well, the snow falls on the just and the unjust. I think it's just, it's like how you view it. It's all perspective, right? Like do you guys have a fireplace?
We do have a fireplace.
Have you been using it?
Yeah, we've been being real true Catholics and burning books. We're really doing what our ancestors did, a few hundred years ago, and burning all.
Oh, that's awesome. What books did you start with?
All the Protestant Bibles.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
You have a lot of those at your house?
Oh, dude, I have been given so many free Bibles, it's ridiculous.
But from Protestants, or do you just steal them from hotel rooms?
I haven't actually burned Bibles. We have burned some Protestant books, but not Bibles. But the funniest thing for me, in regards to like non-Catholic Bibles, and to be fair, I don't even think what I'm about to tell you is a Bible. Have you ever heard of the Story Bible?
Yes, I've heard of this. Remind me what this is.
So it's like the Bible in narrative form. So like it's like the message is one thing. It says like the Bible and like hip things, and then Jesus with his hipster glasses went over to the Pharisees who were like the Fed, and that's what the message is like. The story is just like reading a novel, right? So it's not actually the Bible. So I'm currently using that to prop up my camera right now. I would feel terrible if it was the NABRE or RSV, but it's just the story. So
dude, I use big catechisms to prop up my like computers and stuff. I think that's perfectly acceptable.
Well, it's only acceptable if you then use the Bible on the other side as the two pillars of faith.
That's true. Together. That's true. It's but literal and metaphorical. Have you heard of the Hawaiian Pigeon Bible?
No. Oh, wait. Is that the one that is like written in Hawaiian?
Oh, yeah. It's written in Hawaiian Pidgin, so it's like a combination of all these immigrants to Hawaii, many, many decades ago. It's like Spanish, Japanese, Chinese, like slang. It's like all of these weird things. So if you pull it up, it's like, it's insane. It's insane to read. And it's a legitimate thing. Like, it's one of those things that if you read it out loud in the wrong place, maybe in a Starbucks or something, you might get canceled. But it's a legitimate language. Like, trying to read the Hawaiian Pigeon Bible is it's like, then God blessed his only boy and sent him to have much aloha. It's like crazy if you look up the Hawaiian Pigeon Bible. But anyways, I don't know if that's what we want to do, but
I have seen it. No, what I want to do is we've complained about why we got here. All to get to the point of Everybody listening just better enjoy this episode because it has been rough to get here. So you've been a guest on this show before, I believe twice.
Have I really?
Yeah.
Maybe over the phone? Or
No.
was over this?
Yeah,
Oh,
100%.
wow.
Yeah, I'm glad it was memorable for you.
Hey, I mean, it should have been more memorable. I think you should make it more memorable next time. This time. Let's make today memorable. Let's make a memory.
Next time, we'll make it memorable. Today, we're just getting by the skin of our teeth, which I've never understood. I don't have skin on my teeth. But
Me neither.
here's what we need to do. We need to explain to the people who you are, because it has been a while since you've been on.
Yeah.
And how you can introduce yourself however you want, but I want to
do your
like
introduction.
This.
How do you introduce when you're at a cocktail party and someone walks up to you and they're like, "Hey, Taylor, who's Edmund?" How do you explain that?
Edmund is one of the most
and I'll go you next. I'll describe you
terrifying.
next. Okay.
Edmund is one of the most successfully creative people that I've ever seen. He's like, everything that he touches in the creative sphere is really good. He's also one of the spaciest people I know. So listening to his podcast is a combination of those things where it's like, this should be the greatest thing ever. But right in the middle of it, you're like, hey, let's read the Hawaiian Pigeon Bible while we're trying to go one direction. And that's what your show is. Like I was a guest on your show and I loved it because I was just along for this 3-hour ride.
Oh my gosh, that was one of my favorites. That was so fun.
That
was so fun. That whole night was so fun.
It's my favorite time guesting on any show ever. Yeah. I loved it. But we tackled 87 topics. Like this show, there's 3 segments and usually around 3 to 4 topics, right? And we've already tackled 18.
It's very focused. Very focused.
Yeah, because you're the co-host. So it's kind of like Liv, but on steroids. Like Liv's usually the co-host that kind of gets me everywhere. But you are super spacey. So super creative. Everything you touch turns gold, and then you can't find the gold because
this is a valid assessment. That's a very valid. I really appreciate that. When people ask me about Taylor Schroll, I say, have you ever played the video game The God of War?
I have, yes.
And then I say, imagine if the God of War was like a little heavier, but with more beautiful eyes. And I say, that's Taylor Schroll. He's a very loud man. He's a very thorough man. And he's here for a party. And I say, if you want to get loud, and Catholic, Taylor Schroll's your guy.
It sounds
That's
like
what I say.
That last part sounds like a 90s youth group. If you want to get loud and Catholic.
Yeah, it feels like a 90s t-shirt.
Boy, that's what I'm going to call you for the rest of the.
So I think that was a good introduction to your audience for me. Creative and spacey. I think that's all they need to know.
Like Kevin. Creative and spacey. So
yes, but not like Kevin Spacey in every way.
No, you're just like him in every way.
No.
So here's what was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say.
You were going to flatter me more about things that you've seen.
No, I was going to introduce you in some way, and then you derailed me, and it was fun. But now I don't know where we were going.
Oh, you said you were going to introduce me to the audience, and then I said, "How do you introduce me?" Oh, and then you wanted me to introduce myself.
Here's how I wanted to introduce you. I have remembered now. This is I've never felt less in control of my own show in my entire life. Here's when you and I met, the night that we recorded the episode of your show called The Show, which drives me crazy, but we'll get into that later. We recorded there. What was I going to say? I've been thrown off again. Oh my goodness.
We had a good time. We recorded. It's not very focused. You are very focused with your shows, as we can tell.
Well, I was.
But I have a certain effect. This is the problem.
I'm also really tired. I've gotten 3 hours of sleep in the last 2 days because it's 45 degrees in my house.
We're under so much stress. People don't understand. I mean, maybe people do understand, but Taylor, there's so many. There's equipment. There's software. There's hardware. There's medium wear. You're wearing. There's hats. There's microphones. There's headphones. There's racing panels behind you. You're in a Formula One chair. There's a lot going on here. It's understandable. I think your audience should have a little sympathy on you. It's understandable.
No, my audience doesn't have any sympathy. But I am glad you noticed my new chair. I got a very new chair because I spend literally all of my waking hours in this room. And I'm old and I'm falling apart, so I needed a chair with back support.
It's worth it. Investing in your bum area is worth it because, like, think about how much time your bed, your feet, and your chair. I mean, those are like. Where else do you oh, the toilet. Like, where else do you spend most of your time?
I don't spend most of my time on the toilet. You might need to get that checked out.
Well, I'm just saying, like if you ranked top places you spend your time, it's like bed, up on your feet, walking around, a chair, a toilet.
No, I don't spend, like, it's not even close.
Well,
it's like
sometime.
8 hours, 14 hours, 4 hours, and like minutes. Come on.
Let's pull up your like iPhone, your health app or something.
I would like to introduce you to the show, please.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, okay. I remembered what I was going to say about introducing you. So I went over to your house when we recorded that episode of yours that I was on, and we started talking about like how I was like, you're so good at this. Like, why don't you just do this for a living? And you were like, I love parish life. I'm never leaving the parish. Like, I just want to be ingrained in the parish community. And I was just like, dude, this isn't going to last. Like, in a year, you're going to be doing your own thing. And then the irony is that within a year, I thought I was going to stay at Ablaze for forever. And then within a year, I was doing my own thing, all of the creative stuff I was doing on the side. And you too did not live up to your promise of staying in the parish forever. Why don't you tell that story?
Yeah, I mean, I like more than anyone I've ever known or met in parish ministry. I mean, just of people I've met, I'm sure there are people more committed than me, but I felt really, really called to parish ministry and had turned down other job opportunities, turned down other things. My heart was in parish ministry. I still feel like a lifelong parish minister. So it was really a lot of factors that I have a hard time even processing right now. Let's just say that God had to kind of force me out of it, and I quit with no real plan.
Attaboy.
And I purposely quit like at a time where I didn't want to wait for another opportunity to come along and then that to be the reason why I was quitting, or for people to see that. There was, I can just say it this way. I guess I haven't really talked about it super publicly, but there was just a lot of dysfunction and frustration with what I was able to do at the parish level. And let's just put it that way. Like I was very frustrated. And through a lot of prayer, I felt like God was leading me in a direction to understand that maybe God was calling me to still be committed to the parish, but just not as a full-time staff member. And at the time, I felt like being on staff was not what was best for me, for my family, or for the parish, and that I could be arguably just as effective just as a parishioner. So that's kind of the weird, messy story.
You put out like a 10, 12-minute video, like announcement video when this happened a few months ago. And the thing that I appreciated the most about it was that you said, I'm not leaving the parish community. Like, I'm not going to work there. But like, you and your wife, y'all's original goal is to do ministry together and do ministry at the parish. And y'all can still do that. And like, that actually helped me a lot. In like, I had already made the jump, but it helped a lot, like just with how I feel about like the decision that I made. Because like I can still be involved in the parish community. Like I still speak for Theology on Tap for the parish. I still am. I still leading a small group that happens every week that we don't have, the world's worst winter storm. But like I'm still doing youth ministry just as a volunteer. Yeah. And it's funny because I was like, I always thought I had to be the youth minister, and the youth minister is a friend of mine. And I was like, every youth minister, like I'm going to be prideful for a second, every youth minister would kill for a volunteer like me. Like somebody who had been in youth ministry for 12 years, Just
be the best volunteer. Yeah, just be the best the absolutely best volunteer.
Or the worst, like if I wanted to take over everything, but I've done it enough that I don't want to take over anything. I'm just like, what do you need me to do? You know what I mean? So, So I really appreciate it. Really appreciated that. So you're running... Like obviously you do your podcast, the show, but you're also running the studio that we can beautifully see you in right now. If you're watching on YouTube, or we'll share pictures and clips on social media. But what do you do at the studio? Like elevator pitch me.
Okay, so the current version of this elevator pitch, I mean, honestly, it started as this podcast in my dining room and just doing creative services on the side, and then slowly grew into collaborating with other local Catholic creatives and, doing podcasting or creative services or video production. But the most recent iteration of this is that, there's two things we really want to do. And I'm sure you can relate to this. On the one hand, I love making shows and I love collaborating with people who make shows. And I think they're talented people. I want to house creative people here at the studio. But then there's also the client services side. I like helping other people make their own shows and their own podcasts, and content marketing, I guess, is the thing. So we say we do content marketing and video podcast production for personality-driven brands. So that means small to medium-sized businesses that have someone who wants to drive their brand or business as a personality, not just like Coca-Cola, where there's lots of people involved, but like yourself and Forte Catholic or some of these other smaller businesses. So that's kind of what we do. On top of that, we're trying to have you guys, a media company that just puts out content we like. And so the client services helps pay for the 20% of our time that we put towards our passion projects and shows.
Yeah. So we are rivals that absolutely love each other.
Yeah, but this is the thing. If you just see everything as competition, you'll never have community, right? There's that quote, if you only see people similar to you as competition, then you'll never have friends that understand what you're going through. And I love that you're that way, that you're just really open with collaboration and us sharing, best practices or how to do this better. Because honestly, if we're honest, this is kind of a new sector in industry: video podcasting, content marketing. The church and even just the world is pretty new. For the most part.
The world is new.
So
You're one
exciting.
of those new earthers.
The world is new. This is a new world. The world is only 1,000 years old.
We got to burn that book in my fire that we talked about earlier. But it is, and I love that about you too. You have shared so much knowledge with me over the last years, particularly because of I just got into video stuff, and I was just such a noob. I'm still such a noob compared to you guys. But also just how you work with other people. I've been able to be I can take a job and then hire people to work with me on it, and I always just thought I had to do everything. So that's been really helpful for me. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. We're gonna take a break and we'll come right back. So do not go anywhere, because I have a lot of questions about Edmund, or for Edmund, that are not about Edmund. We're gonna get back to the weird thoughts that Taylor has. We're getting back to the origins of Forte Catholic. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Edmund, I went on another podcast about a week ago. It was a sports trivia podcast. How would you fare at sports trivia?
I would fail. I'd be entertaining as all get out, but I would fail miserably.
That's how I was my first experience, or my first appearance on the show. It's called the Benchwarmers Trivia Podcast. I love it. I'm a huge sports fan, but I'm not good at sports trivia. So I've been listening to it to learn. I went on it and got absolutely pummeled the first time, and I went back again. Did I get redemption? Did I get pummeled again? You can find out. Listen to the Benchwarmers podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Scroll down to the episode that says Taylor Schroll, or go to my social media at Taylor Schroll, and you'll find it there. Listen to the Benchwarmers Sports Trivia Podcast. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. That is Edmund Mitchell being welcomed back in for this segment. That is a theme on the show. I give everybody a middle name. What's your actual middle name? I think Charles, right?
Dwayne. No, it's Dwayne.
No, it's not. It's Charles. I think I heard you talk about it recently.
No, it's Joseph.
Joseph, that's right. It's your year. It's your year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So usually on this show, when I have my normal co-host and I don't have to yell and scream and get, halfway through recordings, have power go out, like a normal show, I just have a lot of weird thoughts that I just come and spew at my co-host. So now, you're in. You're not new anymore. You've been a co-host for forever now, a whole segment. So I'm just going to hit you with all the weird thoughts that I had this week. Are you ready?
Okay, spew your thoughts on me.
Okay. Can you, Edmund Mitchell, can you eat a soul?
Eat a soul?
Yeah.
Can I eat a soul? Like a soul? Like what? Like the living principle? Do you mean soul or spirit?
SOUL. Can you eat a soul?
I mean, I think it depends on the soul.
What souls do you think you can eat?
Probably babies.
Oh gosh.
I think people with. I think.
Wait, you have to clarify that. What do you mean?
Well, a baby soul hasn't been around that long.
No,
but a soul with a lot of.
Why would you eat a baby soul? That's a terrible thing to say.
I don't want to, but I'm just saying, could I? Yeah, probably a baby soul. Because I just think it doesn't have as much metaphysical like weight to it.
You're going in a completely different direction than I thought you would. Have you, Edmund Mitchell, ever eaten a soul? Not would you eat a baby?
No,
I don't know what you're talking about.
No. Well, you asked, could I? I mean, no, I never have.
You have never eaten a soul?
No.
And you're saying that publicly here on a Catholic podcast that you have never eaten a soul?
Well, not that I'm aware of. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this gets really tricky. I'm sure like your smarter co-host would be like, I mean, if you devour an animal, are you eating its soul? Not really, technically. But like in some way, you're participating in consuming. Well, you know what? No, I kind of have, right? Because the Eucharist, body, blood, soul,
you got it. And I was about to say, none of my other co-hosts would have gotten this easier. Okay, so you're right. Okay. The Eucharist, you have eaten a soul quite a bit of times. Yeah. Okay,
these are trick questions.
It kind of, because I think it tricked me my entire life. So let's go back to the deer before we talk about the Eucharist. Like we're gonna pretend like we're reading that scripture as the deer pants for water. I'm panting for water because we're almost out and we're in a pandemic / winter storm and we're running out of water. Please send help. Mm-hmm. But the deer, if you're eating something that is dead, but I don't know why you brought babies into this. It's like Catholics are pro-life, and that was a weird thing to bring up at the beginning of the segment. But
no, I just mean a small soul, like a smaller, newer soul would be easier to consume if I had to than like, you know, Hitler's soul is just like weighed down by all of this like sin and just it's seen a lot of action. You know, I just don't know that I could digest that without a Tums.
You're so weird. This was a mistake. So, like, if you're eating deer, like a soul is like the life-giving force, right? So if you're eating a deer, like in the process of eating it, unless you walk up to a live deer, like you're not eating.
Yeah.
And even then, like it's not. So like a dead animal that you are eating.
Yeah.
You're not eating its soul because the soul was the life-giving force, and that is now dead. So I was thinking about this at Mass the other day, and it's one of those things that like I went through the same, like your thought process, like taking 2-3 minutes to figure it out was essentially my entire 31 years of life, because my whole life growing up, it was just like pounded into us. Like the bread becomes the body of Christ, the blood or the wine becomes the blood of Christ. But every single Mass, the priest says body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ. And it never hit me until I went to a wedding last weekend. I don't know why it hit me then. It was just like I don't know. These things hit me at random times.
It was a soulful wedding.
Yeah, very much so. Two very white people, very soulful wedding. So I was it just hit me and I started thinking about it. Body, blood, I totally get. Like divinity, I get too. Because like we always say, like, oh, we're eating God. We're partaking in like God becoming one with us physically in the bread and wine, the body.
Yeah,
man,
and who hasn't had like a Godiva chocolate, you know?
For real. Very heavenly.
So I mean, divine.
But the
soul.
The soul part I never thought about. Where it's like, because I think souls and I think like Halloween or like video games, right? Like, you know, these ghosts or like very terrifying things, and you're eating a soul. And then I started thinking about it, and I literally had to go ask one of my theological friends that was over at our house yesterday, because we have a fireplace. We have a fireplace. They had wood, so we had warmth. Aww. It was very cute. But I had to ask her. I was like, you got to explain this whole soul thing to me. Like, how are we eating a soul? Because that's.
Yeah, we're soul eaters.
Yeah, Catholics are soul. We're not cannibals. We're soul eaters. Duh.
Dude, you know, talk about a cool brand. I mean, there's like a fish eaters website. Talk about a cool Catholic brand that you don't know is Catholic. Soul eaters. Right? That would be a cool Catholic brand.
Yeah, it's like the whole Memento Mori vibe for sure.
So you had to ask your theologian, while I searched soul eaters, you had to ask your theologian buddy?
I did, because I was like, how am I eating a soul? And like you kind of got to it with the deer thing. Like the deer is dead. So you can't eat the soul, but we are eating like Jesus' body and blood and divinity. Like those three things always made sense to me. But as we are partaking in the Eucharist and eating his body, drinking his blood, he is not dead. He's alive. No. So his soul is still part of his body. Because when you die, your soul and your body are split. But then he did that little magic trick, and 3 days later rose again, and you reunited those two, just like we're going to be at the end of time. Yeah. But we are eating his body, which includes his soul, because that is his life, which all, like that is giving us life. And that blew my mind. And I've heard it a billion times before.
That's wild. I wonder how that works because, your soul it's not in space. If you read Theology for Beginners by Frank Sheed, like the first chapter he goes through. Yeah, it always stuck in my mind, his kind of explanation that like spirit doesn't have shape or it doesn't take up space or time. It's just, and he kind of walks you through how to kind of imagine what that would be like. So I wonder how that works because we do believe that we're eating his body, blood, soul, and divinity, but it's not contained in location, whereas eating something is, it's located in my mouth, then it's located in my stomach, then somewhere else, and then we assimilate it into our body, so we make it into cell parts of us. That's a very strange thing to think about.
It is, and I think the difference with like Jesus in the Eucharist is that like his body does, like, he's God. He can break the rules if he wants. But like the way I kind of understand it maybe is that like his body obviously is in heaven, but like in the Eucharist, his body is physically present there, which would mean that his soul is physically present there. So like he gets to break the rules of being in heaven and everywhere and in every adoration chapel and in my belly.
It's sneaky Jesus, man. It's sneaky Jesus. People thought he couldn't do it, and he did. And
that's his brand.
He's just real sneaky. Yeah. His brand is like break the rules, right? He's like, here's the rules, but I'm gonna break them.
Yeah. Rules are made to be broken, but you can't make broken rules unless you're God and you can do whatever you want because you literally invented the entire scenario that we all experience.
Yeah, man. But I think from now on, I'm just gonna say I'm a soul eater.
Good. We should. And the two of us are going to race for that domain name for $8 after this recording.
Dude, it's kind of like a Highlander situation where you chop off their head and then the soul is absorbed into you. It's kind of like that. I don't wish that that's what the Eucharist was like, but I kind of wish that something like that happened, like lightning shot down, or just like you could see the soul entering.
Yeah, and like it gave me like a little a new inclination too of like. It really made it set in that like not only am I eating his body and blood, but like his life is coming into me. Like I've felt that before, like the divine life. I mean, that's the whole point of eating the Eucharist is that like, we get to experience his divine life and he's sharing that with us. But like thinking about it in that way was really cool.
But most people think that, or it's easy for us to imagine cannibalism. It's really weird to imagine a form of cannibalism where the thing that you're eating is not dead.
Yeah.
Like that's strange to think like, and it does not die as you're eating it. It's just alive the whole time. And then you want to become more like it instead of it becoming more like you as you're digesting it and coming into communion with it.
Are you eating God or is he eating the bad parts of you? He's eating away your sin.
It's like a good virus or like a good bacteria.
Yeah,
or something.
There you go. Something else cool happened at that wedding, obviously due to something bad. So due to COVID, the mass was social distance, like the whole every other row thing. And it's a packed wedding. So there's like, but it's a big church, right? So there's a lot of people, but we're all, 6 feet apart and we're all wearing masks and all these things. But I have been to like socially distant masses where like going to communion was still the same as we all know it. Like you walk up the aisle, that there would be like an usher kind of standing there, like making sure you were a few feet apart from each other, all this kind of stuff. And
then they throw the host.
No,
right?
not at all. Not at all.
Oh, okay. Maybe not in your diocese.
But when like for this mass, they were like, well, what this parish decided was that for all the COVID protocols, we think it's safer for our priests to come to you rather than you come to us. Like get up, go down the aisle. So
interesting.
So since we were all in like every other row, the priests, there were 4 priests at this wedding, so they could do it pretty, distribute communion pretty quickly. But they walked through like the first row, the third row, the fifth row, and gave it to the even numbered rows. Right.
That's cool.
So we were all kind of chatty that day. We all received whilst kneeling.
Down.
You didn't like they actually like they encourage like, hey, if you would like to receive on your tongue, that is your prerogative. We ask that for COVID reasons that you receive on the hand, but it's up to you. But Like
Ooh.
we were all already kneeling in the pews, and you're not going to like stand up, because then it looks like you're trying to fight the priest or whatever. So we all just knelt and like, put out our hands. And it was one of those things that like I have theologically thought about going up to the altar. Like, like there's so much even scriptural imagery about that, like approach the throne of grace with confidence, and like come to the altar, like come to receive Jesus. Like Jesus is here waiting for you. Come to Jesus, right? And having the priest come to us was one of the more special, like spiritual moments I've had in years, like truly, because like all of those things are true, like going to the altar, all that imagery's there and it's all true. But having Jesus come to me, to everybody, right, was special because it's like, one, these priests, which we've had trouble with priests here recently in the world, but
in the world places, there have been problems, I've heard.
Yeah. So like having 4 good priests, like as the shepherds walking amongst the flock was really cool. But then also the fact of like Jesus coming to me in this last year, it's been really hard for me to go to Jesus. Because COVID's been hard, life's been hard, like my whole life changed, spiritual life has been difficult. We haven't been going to mass, we haven't been receiving the Eucharist as much as often, like period. Like it's just been a hard year. So like I was about to like tear up because it's like Jesus knows that, right? And I know like that wasn't the plan. Like he's, there's the physical thing and then the like the imagery. Like obviously we walk up to the aisle and there's imagery around that. But like there's a real reason for this. But it was so special for me, like in my internal life, because it's like I needed that. I needed Jesus to like come to me through one of his vicars, through one of his priests, to bring himself to me. It was just really special because like you could never ask that of a king, right? Hey, king, you come to me. You go to the throne of the king, but for the king to step down and come find a peasant was just really, really special.
Yeah, man, I think that's so beautiful. We all still struggle with this old heresy of Pelagianism that we have to do an action in order to be worthy of grace and love, that we have to earn it, and that if we're a good person, we do good things and then we earn it. And that's really cool. I never thought of that maybe that's not always incorporated into the Mass, but how cool that is that maybe even subconsciously when, it's my turn to get up and I go up and receive the Eucharist because, I'm doing this action. And so now I'm worth it. But it's almost like imagining a knock at your door and Jesus showing up. Like that divine initiative is a very special thing. And it's hard to always keep present in your mind that every day God is taking divine initiative. Like every day he's taking initiative. Before we've even turned to him, he's already wanted us to turn to him and is already pouring out grace for us to turn. So that's really cool. It's a really cool image, or just a really cool story and thought that I'm going to think about and pray about.
Yeah, and that's what I love about being Catholic is these symbols, these physical things that make spiritual realities make sense to us, right?
Yeah.
And like you just said, like all the things you just said about like God is always making that initiative. God is like, I just haven't felt that in so long. But to see it made me realize it, like all those things that are true. It was just it was just really cool. All right, I've got another one that isn't as good. Are you ready?
Okay. Yep, I'm ready for this.
The whole story, it got really popular over the last couple of years because of praise and worship, but the whole like Jesus leaving the 99 to go after the one.
Okay, yeah.
That parable for it to make sense to me, that means there has to be other shepherds. I think that had to be understood that there were other shepherds there and one shepherd went to get the one, because you can't leave the other 99 unattended. Like if you're going to get the one because it's it's like, he might be hurt or maybe there's wolves, like those things are also true for the 99, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like, shepherds would often work in groups, so I think it can be safe to be assumed. But But here's what I feel like with like a lot of our shepherds falling. We don't have to get into that. But I kind of feel like Jesus is doing all the work on his own. Like there's not a 1 and a 99. Like there's a 1 and a 1 and a 1 and a 1 all the way up to 100. And like we're all just running our own different directions and lost. Yeah. And Jesus is like running around. Come back! Come back! Oh, come back! I didn't even try to make that joke.
That was bad.
It was real bad.
That was really bad. Yeah, man, it's kind of like bringing all your kids to Chuck E. Cheese, and then and then you're like, wait right here, don't go anywhere. I'm gonna go pay I'm gonna go buy the pizza, and then you come back and they're just gone, man. So Jesus is in a Chuck E. Cheese looking for all of his kids. I think that's like the modern Bible. That's the story Bible approach, or no, the Message. That's the Message version. What's a more modern thing than Chuck E. Cheese? Like you bring your kids to, I don't know, Chick-fil-A.
I was about to say nothing. Anything is more modern because they've gone out of business because of COVID.
Yeah, we had to stop bringing all of our kids to like public, like Targets and stuff, all at the same time because they would just disappear. It's really easy to lose 1 or 2 when you have 5.
Well, you had 6. You forgot one at Target. So.
We had 6 and then we forgot one. But yeah, that's we're still hoping to find him.
Here I am. I'm your long lost son. That's why I brought you on today.
Yeah.
I think you're like 4 months older than me. All right. Last maybe a couple more. Why are we weighing people while they're soaking wet?
Why are we weighing people while they're soaking wet? Is this like one of those trick question ones? Are we weighing people? Who is weighing the people that are soaking wet?
Apparently, there are a lot of people weighing people soaking wet because it's a common saying for people to say like, yeah, Edmund weighs 180 pounds soaking wet. And I'm like, why? Oh. Why are we weighing people soaking wet?
Yeah, that's strange, isn't that? I guess it's kind of like, hey, with like it's kind of a, +1. Maybe it's kind of like an expression that just means like, it's kind of like overestimating, like 180 soaking wet, kind of thing.
The way that it's most typically used is for very skinny people, like very light people. Oh. They're like, man, that person weighs 100 pounds soaking wet, meaning he probably weighs like 90 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And like, I guess that's not as offensive as like if somebody said that I weigh an amount soaking wet. Like I weigh around 265. Like if somebody said he weighs 300 pounds soaking wet, I'd be like, hey, you jerk.
Well, I think you got to think about it, right? Like skinny people are normally more anxious and nervous. I speak on behalf of skinny people, so I think we sweat a lot more.
Are you joking? I'm super anxious and currently flop sweating. Like that is not a stereotype that is real.
Yeah, that's true. I guess, yeah, that's true. Bigger guys, huskier guys do have a lot of moisture that they create.
You're the opposite of what you just said.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why you need to weigh huskier guys dry.
Right?
Maybe it's to even it out. Like husky guys are always soaking wet. So you need to get a skinny guy soaking wet in order to kind of even that out.
Well, you soaking wet and me completely dry, I'm still double what you are as a human person.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, the Lord works in mysterious ways. Like miracles are real.
All right.
Who knows?
Speaking of miracles are real and the Lord working in mysterious ways. Here's our last question for this strange thoughts from Taylor.
Yeah. Strange thoughts from Taylor.
Thank you. I'm going to put that at the beginning of the segment. No, I'm not. I have way too much editing to do because the power keeps going out.
Yeah.
If the two become one flesh in marriage, we agree that happens, yes?
Oh, man, we were just talking about this in therapy the other day.
You don't know what I'm going to say. Maybe you should talk about that in therapy.
Well, just
assuming
about
what your wife's going to say. I'm your wife in this scenario. If the two become one flesh.
Okay.
And then when we die, there is no marriage in heaven, right?
Yeah.
But then at the end of time, we get our glorified bodies. Do all three of those things make sense? Like those are common knowledge in Catholicism, right? My question is, does that mean
Siamese twins?
Does that mean at the last day, the final judgment, that our flesh of my wife and myself are going to be ripped apart violently in order to not be one anymore because there's no marriage in heaven.
Well, no, I think when we get our resurrected bodies, you'll still be two individual people, but you'll have Siamese twin bodies. So you will be like joined somewhere, maybe at the hip or the shoulder.
So there's no marriage, but we have to spend eternity together.
Well, I mean, hey, man. I mean, it was in the contract. It was right there. The two become one flesh. And like, I mean, it was in the terms and conditions of the, so I think like, yeah, you're not married, but you are the two flesh. So it's like, two heads, one body kind of situation.
We are one body.
Which is interesting. Do you think theologians or canon lawyers or whoever have had to talk about, like, Siamese twins have two souls, right?
Yes, but please don't eat them.
Yeah, I would never. I don't know that I could. Maybe I could. Depends on the twin. But like then if you separate them, they have two souls, but their bodies are kind of they might have like the same organ and stuff. I think that's what happens. I think in the resurrected, I think I'm going to put this right here. This is probably in the catechism, or maybe I just didn't read that part, but maybe
it's
this
in the message version of the catechism.
Exactly. I think our resurrected bodies, if you've been married, will be Siamese. Or is that the correct term? That might be inappropriate. Maybe it's not Siamese anymore. Conjoined.
I think
Siamese might be like a Chinese flu kind of situation where you can't say it that way.
Well, you just said Chinese
flu.
That
might be wrong.
So don't say it. So
okay.
Here's
twins?
I think we have come across a very theologically deep point, and I don't know if anybody's decided it yet. And just like explorers, like in the moon, we got to put the
we're
American
theological
flag.
explorers.
So we are the explorers that have found this problem for the first time, and therefore we
Yep.
get to stake our claim. I think to combine your thought and mine, you can either become conjoined people, or the wife gets to decide if she wants to just go her own way. I think to be fair, and especially in like the Me Too movement in heaven, I'm sure it's reached there.
That seems fair.
That's what we need to do.
I think that seems fair. I mean, it's a very it's fair, and our Lord, our God, is a God of fairness. So I think he would allow for that type of caveat or decision on the woman's behalf, right?
Very much so. I know
this is probably why it says like, right, the man is the head, but the woman is the neck.
Yeah. That's not scripture, but yeah.
It says it right there in scripture. So I think maybe that's what it's alluding to.
So here's what we're going to do. I don't want anybody else to respond to this segment. I just want my wife and your wife to respond on social media whether they would like to be conjoined twins with us at the end of time or go their own ways. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, Edmund. There was a mess. We didn't get to like really promote your stuff during the show. How can people get connected with you? Where do you want to point them to?
You can find me at Edmund Mitchell on Instagram, Edmund with a U, Edmund Mitchell on YouTube. And also, I'm just going to throw this out there. This isn't public knowledge everywhere yet. So if you're listening to this, if you go to Bummer and Lazarus on Instagram, you'll find some secret things that we're cooking up.
I'm going to do that right now. If you want more from Forte Catholic, you can find it at fortecatholic.com. Hit subscribe. You know all the things. If you want to support the show, fortecatholic.com/donate. We are a nonprofit, all charitable donations that help me feed my children and help you not go to hell. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am still Taylor Schroll. That is still Edmund Charles Mitchell, also known as Dwayne. And we are getting through. This show has been an absolute mess. We have recorded multiple times. We've rescheduled multiple times. The irony is, Edmund, I have been cold for 48 hours because the power's been out and it's 20 degrees outside during the day and 8 at night. The irony is I'm sweating so much right now because when the power's on is when I call you back, we pick up the show where we left off, and the heat is just beating down on me. So there's so much irony in I've been very cold most of the day, but now I'm very warm. So our last little segment here is going to be pretty short because we've had to piece this all together. But you are a very forward-thinking person. On your show called The Show, which is very confusing because that's what everybody calls their podcast to their friends. It's like, hey, Father Anthony, can you record the show next week? Hey, Liv, can you record the show in 2 weeks? And yours
is because I didn't want the burden of having any topic or angle. I just wanted to put in the practice of making a podcast, so I just named it The Show.
I mean, most people just use their name at that point, like the Edmund Mitchell podcast, Colin Coward podcast.
I know I was being dumb.
Yeah, you were. But you talk about a lot of like forward-thinking things, and I actually.
What do you mean by that?
like
forward thinking.
Like when I came up.
Progressive?
No, like futuristic type
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Like when I was on the show, you were like
artificial intelligence simulations.
Exactly. Like we're all into simulation. It's not real.
Yep.
Like I like just stuff that I don't think about. I'm not smart enough, and I don't really care. But the future is kind of here in one way, and I have some kind of insight into it. But like, you've talked about cryptocurrency on your show, also called the show. I recently got into cryptocurrency back in October. And it was like I don't have enough money to like invest and do stocks and do those kinds of things.
Dogecoin or what?
I didn't. So like I actually didn't put any money into this. But there's an app called Coinbase that I started using, and it's all like a cryptocurrency wallet. And what they did is that they were like, if you watch these videos that kind of teach you about what cryptocurrency is and how, each one of these specific ones will give you $4, $8, $6 for free in that cryptocurrency. So I ended up watching all of those videos, answering all the questions, and I got like $40. And then like a couple weeks ago, when like the whole market thing, we don't have to get into it, but the whole GameStop thing and all that stuff, it blew up and it like quadrupled my money. So like it's quadrupled in the last 4 months. Have you gotten into crypto at all?
I haven't invested personally, but I think it's fascinating to read about and follow. And I know what's crazy is that Dogecoin or Dogcoin or whatever, however you pronounce it, it was just like a gimmick meme Bitcoin that they created that actually gained some traction. I've also been following the the Reddit Wall Street Bets situation with GameStop and all that. It's been wild, but cryptocurrency is really interesting because it's like decentralized. I'm an idiot, but it's like, from how I understand it, it's like decentralized money, which I think we're seeing the internet causing this revolution in all these different sectors: finance, marketing, business, like all these different sectors are just television are being completely revolutionized by the internet, which is an understatement, the biggest understatement on this show. But anyways, I'm fascinated by it. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, me too. I'm enjoying learning about it. And it's one of those things that like the more I learn about it, the more I realize I don't know about it at all.
Yeah.
And so like, even though I watched all these videos, I have no idea what it is. But there's an update to this story. Not only did my $43 turn into $140 or whatever, but the football season ended last weekend, 2 weeks ago. And a lot of people who listen to the show regularly know that I love betting on football. So like 5 years ago, I put in $200 into this like online betting site, and every year I am up. I'm very good at it. I've like I get the percent, like professional bettors get about 56% of 56 to 58% of their bets right. Last season I got 57. This year I got 54. So last season I was in it. This year I was a little under it.
Nice.
But last year I was $450 over, I think, something like that. This year I was $350 over. So I withdrew it. And they, like, one of the ways that you can withdraw the money is to withdraw it into Bitcoin. So I actually withdrew my money into Bitcoin. So now I have like a little over $500 in cryptocurrency that like I earned. I have not put a money directly into it. I got $43, and then this is all just gambling winnings, right?
It's house money.
So it's fun. And here's the thing: as I check it every day, I love watching it. I love trying to get to like learn it and trying to get to know it, but I really don't understand it. And boy, is that Catholicism! Like I don't understand it. I don't really get it. Like, you know, 3 and 1, and we're soul eaters, and
it just kind of works.
It's just like what I don't get it. I don't get it. And I started to think like, I get Catholicism way more than I get cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
But there was a time that Catholicism sounded just like cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And like thinking about like other people, like there are people in the world that know as much about Catholicism as you and I know about cryptocurrency. Which is one, why I love doing what I do and why you love doing what you do, you know, sharing the message of the gospel with as many people as we can. But also, you know, it's just kind of cool to experience that. Like, I'm super into this. I don't really understand it, but I'm along for the ride, and it's been fun.
Yeah. Dude, my wife the other day, she does payroll for her mom's business, for her parents' business. Yeah. And they live an hour and a half north of here. And we had this weather storm and everything. And I said, hey, were you able to do payroll today? And she said, yeah, the servers were down or something. Must be because of the storm. And I was like, oh, yeah, the internet pipes are down between here and I was like, that's not how it works at all. Like, there's no, and And, we were talking about how we just don't understand how the internet works. She was like, I don't understand how the internet works. And it's kind of like this relationship between reason and faith. People think the more materialist, scientific or scientist people, like, you have to understand everything. Well, no, you just have to understand it to a certain point that you feel comfortable trusting that the rest of it makes sense.
Right.
Like what you're saying, like with Catholicism, like you could read articles on Bitcoin and it will make sense. And you could read up to a certain point where you're like, you know what? I don't need to read anymore. I'm like willing to trust that this is real and it makes sense. And then the rest of that is where the faith, in the terms of trust, not blind faith, but it makes up for it, right? Like I could read a lot of articles about mesothelioma and understand to a certain extent, but after a certain point, I'm like, I'm just gonna have to trust scientists on this, or trust doctors, trust someone else. I think it is kind of it's not that we just can't understand Catholicism. It's like everyone has their threshold of how far they're willing to go, and it's not necessarily a good or bad thing. But I mean, you could go further, but there's always that faith component of, like, you can never get to the end and get rid of any level of trust or faith that you have to have.
We could go further too, but we've met our time. So if you are listening to Edmund and you're like, he's kind of like Catholicism or Coinbase for me, like, I don't really understand it, but I want to get to know more, you can find him at Edmund Mitchell on social media. Listen to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. I'll be back next week. See ya!
Bye.